This video contains spoilers for the featured film. All images used belong to their respective copyright owners and are used here for commentary and criticism purposes only. Please remember that statements made are my own opinion and you are free to disagree in the comments, but please do so respectfully. Hey there, Alley Cats, and welcome back to Movie Monday. Today, I'm going to be putting off reviewing the 50 Shades of Grey sequels for as long as possible since I can only take so much of that nonsense within a short period of time. So in this video, I'll be talking about Lucy, a sci-fi action film released in 2014. This is another film I had on my list way back when I first began Movie Mondays in 2016, but in a way, I'm glad I didn't get to it back then. I saw this movie only once when it released in theaters and had very mixed feelings when it first came out, but now I've had a second opportunity to watch it and time to think on it. If you'd like to skip the plot overview and get right into my thoughts on the film, you can skip to this timestamp in the video. So with that said, let's get right into it. We start off with some scenic nature shots in the very early days of mankind, with a bit of narration telling us, life was given to us 1 billion years ago. What have we done with it? Then we head over to modern-day Taiwan to meet Lucy and her new boyfriend Richard. He wants her to deliver a mysterious locked briefcase to the lobby of a hotel for his supposed employer, Mr. Jang, and being rather vague about why he can't do it himself. She's understandably suspicious, but he insists it's just paperwork, totally nothing to worry about. Lucy refuses, but as she's about to leave, Richard handcuffs the briefcase to her wrist, so she's forced to go inside. When she goes to the front desk, she's told she has to meet with Jang, and as she's standing there with the men approaching, she looks out the window to see Richard shot and killed, and Jang's men grab her and drag her to the hotel elevator. Once inside the hotel room, she meets the Korean mob boss himself, a Mr. Jang, and he has her open the case to reveal 4 bags of drugs. Through a translator, he tells Lucy, who is terrified and sobbing throughout this whole ordeal, that he has a job opportunity for her. Oh boy. When she begins to decline, she is knocked out. After she wakes up, her abdomen is bloody and bandaged, and she's told by their doctor they intend to use her as a drug mule and that they've surgically placed one of the drug bags inside of her. The doctor explains the drug is called CPH4, but that's all we find out about it for now. Elsewhere, intercut with events following Lucy for the next several scenes, we meet Professor Norman giving a presentation about how with all humans have achieved throughout history, we can only use 10% of our brain's capacity. And he hypothesizes what would happen if humans could access more. Back with Lucy, the mob bring in their other 3 unwilling drug mules, and the doctor guy explains they will be traveling to Europe, where the drugs will be extracted, and he also mentions that they have information on all their family members in case they try to notify police. All the drug mules, including Lucy, get black bags put over their heads and are led away. While she's in captivity of some different guys, one of them starts getting frisky and then proceeds to kick her repeatedly in the stomach when she tells him to knock it off. Which seems like if this guy is involved in this business, that's a very poor choice because this causes the bag to break and release the drugs into her system. Her body reacts very violently, convulsing and defying gravity, somehow ending up on the ceiling, and we're shown that Lucy is now using 20% of her brain's capacity and she blacks out. When she wakes up, she is very clearly more alert and in control of her own body and becomes almost robotic in movement and is able to easily kill her captors. She also becomes emotionless and no longer feels pain, and when she gets shot in the shoulder, she doesn't even notice at first until she sees the blood and doesn't hesitate or flinch when pulling out the bullet. She goes to the hospital and shoots a brain cancer patient on the operating table because she's able to determine through one look at the x-rays that the doctors would not be able to save him, and she takes his place on the table to get the drug bag removed with about half its contents remaining. Normally, this would be a massive asshole move, but seeing her go from a pathetic sniveling girl begging for her life to cold calculating superhuman is kinda awesome. Lucy tells the surgeon about the drug, and he says CPH4 is produced by pregnant women in their 6th week of pregnancy in very small amounts to give their fetus the energy to grow and develop. And this drug must be a manufactured version, so he says Lucy is lucky to be alive after so much released into her system at once. She goes back to Jang's hotel and kills his men and uses telepathy on Jang to find out where the other drug mules were sent, but she doesn't kill him yet. He's needed for the plot later. She then goes to her apartment apartment and uses her roommate's laptop to research pretty much the entire internet within a minute until she comes upon Professor Norman and contacts him. She tells him all about the CPH4 and that she's nearing 30% cerebral capacity, how she can feel her cells rapidly reproducing but estimates she won't live past 24 hours, and tells him she will be traveling to Paris to meet him soon. At the airport, she sees herself on TV as police are trying to find her, and she instantly makes her short blonde hair grow long and change color to dark brown to hide herself. She contacts the Paris police captain Del Rio to inform him of the drug mules, and even being thousands of miles away, she can telepathically sense where he is sitting, what his surroundings are, and mentally tap into his computer to send photos of the 3 remaining drug mules, who are all intercepted at different airports by police. As Lucy flies to Paris, she reaches 40% capacity, but her body begins to disintegrate after she has a sip of champagne on the airplane, as we see from Norman's previously viewed presentation that the alcohol has made her body an inhospitable environment for cellular reproduction. She frantically eats the remaining CPH4 from the bag to stop the disintegration, and once again she blacks out. She wakes up in police custody at 50% capacity and immediately breaks free of her restraints. Del Rio attempts to detain her, but she telepathically forces all other officers around them unconscious, so it's just the 2 of them, and Lucy takes him to get the other drug bags. Meanwhile, Zhang's men notice that the drug mules were picked up by police, and they invade the hospital where they are being held by police while awaiting surgery, and Zhang's men kill the officers and remove the drug bags themselves. Lucy arrives at the hospital herself at 60% capacity, and since she can easily control other people, she sends the henchmen literally floating in the air and simply takes the bags of drugs. This is when the movie starts going from pretty good to somewhat strange. As she's leaving the hospital, Del Rio says he won't be much help to her since, she is a superhuman, but she gives him the most awkward and uncomfortable to watch kiss and says he's a reminder, whatever the heck that means, maybe referring to a reminder that she's still human? I don't know, it's just weird. Zhang is outside the hospital and sees Lucy leaving with Del Rio, and even though she's supposed to be super mentally powerful and aware, she somehow doesn't notice him right across the street, so he follows them. Lucy meets up with Professor Norman and his group of other scientists he's gathered at his lab, and she discusses life and human existence being measured through time. As Zhang and his men tear through the building, guns ablazing, Lucy has the scientists give her the remaining drugs through an IV and informs Norman she's going to construct a computer and download all her knowledge into it and give him access to it. And as the drugs enter her system, we see she is at 70%. Her body morphs into some odd black substance and begins building her supercomputer as she quickly progresses through 80% and 90%, allowing her to mentally travel through time and space, witnessing colonial times, dinosaurs, the oldest discovered human ancestor, also named Lucy, and the Big Bang. Meanwhile, back in the physical present, Zhang has made his way past the French police and approaches Lucy to point a gun to her head. Just before she is shot, she reaches 100% cerebral capacity and disappears, leaving Del Rio to kill Zhang. Lucy's supercomputer generates a flash drive with all of her knowledge and promptly disintegrates. Del Rio asks Norman where Lucy is, and the response he gets is a text on his phone reading, "I am everywhere." That's a little bit creepy, Lucy, but okay. And we're left with another line of narration. Life was given to us 1 billion years ago. Now you know what to do with it. I'll admit, I did like this movie more the second time viewing it compared to when I watched it when it first released in theaters. The scenes at the beginning, cutting between shots of present events with Lucy arriving at the hotel and a group of cheetahs hunting antelope, makes it very tense and suspenseful, and it's wonderfully done. It shows the cheetah stalking their prey as Zhang's men approach her, chasing the antelope when they shoot Richard and grab her, and the cheetahs killing the antelope as the elevator doors close. The visual effects to create these sort of Lucy vision are also excellent to show us how she sees the world now after the drugs enter her system, like signs in other languages being translated as she looks at them, nerves and functions in other people's bodies, cell phone signals, and so on. It's difficult to even describe the amazing abilities Lucy is capable of throughout the movie, so it's definitely something that has to be experienced visually. There are some silly comedic moments to balance out the serious action portions, and the cast did well, especially Scarlett Johansson as Lucy, despite parts of the plot getting a bit weird. The idea that humans use only 10% of their brains is a myth from what I've read, so that slightly affects my opinion since this is a scientific movie based on something that's known to be untrue. But I can see how it would be interesting to use as a plot device. The first half of the movie is wonderful, but towards the end, it feels a lot more rushed, especially with all the science talk making it more jumbled and convoluted. Maybe I'm just not smart enough to understand it, that's certainly a possibility, but it's almost like the filmmakers are trying too hard to make it overly complex, so there's a lot of things that get lost in the process and continuity errors get overlooked. They had a good thing going, but by the end, it goes completely sideways because, in my opinion, it goes too far with Lucy's abilities. I understand it's science fiction, but her later abilities as she increases in brain power seem a little overdone. And the suspense they created so fantastically at the beginning is completely lost because she essentially becomes invincible. With parts towards the latter half of the movie, like her forced relationship with Del Rio and turning into black goo as her brain power is nearly maxed out, it seems very rushed, like the writers were running out of ideas. I think that's why I wasn't very fond of the movie when walking out of the theater before, since the last half was the worst part, so that's unfortunately the impression I was left with. Of course, I am very satisfied with the first half of the film. Not really much I would change there. What I would fix is more in the second half, and what it mostly boils down to is Lucy's powers being escalated far too fast. Obviously, there needs to be some progression as she gains more brain power, but it goes from 0 to 100 so quick. Telepathy is fine, but make it no sooner than, say, 80% capacity. And there has to be a different ending than making her suddenly disappear and become omnipotent at 100%. That would smooth out the remainder of the movie and also allow to cut out the hastily slapped together relationship between Lucy and Del Rio in an attempt to retain some part of Lucy's humanity that doesn't exactly work the way the filmmakers probably wanted. The movie is still enjoyable and fun overall, but it is possible to have a movie that's both fun and done well from a critical standpoint, something that unfortunately the filmmakers here completely failed on. So because of this, I will have to give Lucy my personal rating of 5 out of 10, because half was quite good and the other half was rather terrible. Though still probably a higher rating than I would have given it after the first time I watched it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and if you have any suggestions for movies I should discuss and review in the future. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you have not already. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye!